We've been investigating the horse slaughter pipeline and the movement of drugs and humans, and it's happening around the world. And we're going to share a perspective from another country of how horses are being used to smuggle humans and drugs. So, welcome, Mouse.
Thank you for having me.
So, you've experienced firsthand a lot of horse movement within countries and drugs being moved, humans. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about that?
Right, well, I've been importing and exporting horses for the past 15 plus years, mainly from Europe to the UK, and then UK out to USA, and Europe out to the USA. Also, Europe out to Canada, and then various other countries around the world. Top end horses. I'm talking horses of 50, 60, 70, 150, 200,000 euros at a time. And it recently came to light that the import and export of horses was fraught with problems in terms of drug smuggling and fraud. Money laundering is a massive thing, and I'm talking mega millions of pounds worth.
With the human smuggling aspect, did anyone ever see humans in trailers or anything like that over there?
Yes. Yeah. People coming over from Europe into the UK. Absolutely. That's people smuggling. The drug smuggling something quite separate from
Or
that.
the people being smuggled
In trailers, lock boxes,
with the horses or the tack or
yeah, with the tack and also with the horses. Customs don't like to open up the horse boxes. Um, Arguably, it's probably even more prevalent with things like cattle, but certainly horses, I know. I've heard of cattle were easiest to smuggle people and drugs over, but horses is my thing, and I know that horses very rarely ever got taken off wagons. So they were bringing the horses over from Europe into the UK. Customs would wave the horses through, and either people, but certainly drugs were coming in. They, just like you exposed, the drugs were smuggled in compartments, or they were simply just left in hay nets. And the sniffer dogs were almost never used. And like I say, because they even if they did get the horses off the wagons, they certainly never used to take the hay nets off. So the drugs were just coming in the hay nets.
um it's just amazing because like I've spent so much time researching it here in the United States, and I feel like it was just putting the puzzle pieces together because we started getting the horses that had diphtheria, and it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? And how are these horses that have to have long exposures to sick humans getting this strain of diphtheria? And we don't have diphtheria in the United States, and it's like, what's going on? It's just putting the puzzle pieces together. But
Yeah.
putting drugs in the hay nets and hiding the drugs within in them. But like horse blankets, did they ever put drugs like in the blankets or the rugs on the horses?
It would certainly make sense. I know when we were sending horses out to America, they always used to take the rugs off the horses, and then rugs would go missing. It would certainly would make sense. You know, if I reverse engineer the problem, if I were a drug smuggler, which I'm not, but if I were, then how would I get the drugs over there? Yeah, I'd probably put them in horses. I mean, you think how easy it is to get drugs into a horse. It's a piece of cake, isn't it?
What are some of the ways that they would put drugs in the horses?
Rectally. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't need to be a rocket scientist, do you, to work out how they're doing it?
No, no, you don't. When you start thinking about it, but we as horse people don't want to think about animals being treated like that, but they are.
Yeah.
So the rugs that were disappearing off the horses, did that make sense to you at the time, or is it just they were there and for some reason people took them?
I just figured that they were being pinched, £20 and then put them on eBay or something like that. But it was only when I started joining the dots that I thought there's something a little more sinister going on here. Yeah, Tony, can I just say, just to be brutally honest here, so I sort of stopped all my animal trading, horse trading and everything. And then I got quite heavily involved in animal rights, but my particular interest was vivisection. And I remember having a conversation with my horse transporter at the time. He was one that used to bring horses over from Europe to the UK for me and a few intra movements. And I said to him, would you be able to do some intel for me and just find out how they're getting beagles across, and also monkeys, non-human primates? Because I couldn't quite work out what the infrastructure was for it. And he said, oh, this is a piece of cake how they're doing that. They do it in this particular way because it's really easy. And I said, crikey, if it's that easy, then how come that there's drugs coming over and drugs going out and airside and not airside, and what are the laws about it? And he said that once you're airside, then it's very easy if you're taking vivisection animals. And then I started joining the dots, and then it opened a whole Pandora's box in terms of where are all the racehorses going, because I couldn't get those numbers to stack up either. Then, the more I looked into it, the more I realised that it was actually dead easy to get drugs across borders, because customs just do not stop horse boxes or anything that's got livestock on it. They wave them through.
That's where the drug cartels are just using the animals to move all the drugs. So a lot of animal movement, you would say, is more of just a front.
Yeah, yeah, and money laundering as well. Routinely, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000 euros were going across in packets of cash, and that's what they were buying the horses with. The horses were almost superfluous to get. You could ship a 20,000 euro horse just to get 100,000 euros money cleaned.
What would happen to the horse after it was shipped, since it was kind of just a pawn of moving for money laundering?
Who cares? It's just a means of cleaning money. It was routine. That often went on. I'm not just talking once in a blue moon or once a year. I'm talking that was routine. And not just one shipper, that was a lot of shippers were doing that. I'm not going to name any names, but yeah.
But they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, of course. I was often being asked, do I want to ship a horse, and in fact, even now, since you guys have got your tariffs, there's horses that are going over from Europe over to America. And because the tariffs are such, then horses are being invoiced so if you've got a horse, say, of 100,000 euros, they will invoice it for, say, 15,000 euros, and then the rest of it will just go across in cash.
And they just send the cash with the horses, like in an envelope?
Yeah. Like literally, yeah. Cash, cash, cash. Notes, cash.
These horses are just being moved. Is it with their passports, or like their paperwork, or like how are they moving the cash with the horses?
Yeah, they have to move. If it's into America, or Canada, if it's a proper export, then they have to move it with a passport. Yeah, but we're talking money laundering here. Over here, we have an awful problem with illegal immigrants that are coming over into England. And one of my friends actually got stopped recently. He heard some rumbling in one of his horse boxes, and out popped some illegal immigrants. The police helicopters are up, and this was not far away from me. This is about an hour or so away from me. You just wouldn't expect it, but yeah, that's happening. And they're just stowaways. They're off into the midnight, and that's it, never to be seen again. Well, it's far easier to do it that way if you think about it. With due respect, these people, they're probably they're desperate, aren't they? You know, it's not for me to judge anybody. But a lot of them are then getting stopped on the boats that are coming across and risking dying on these boats. So why on earth wouldn't you just jump into a horse box? You know, it's almost a guaranteed entry in. And then you get so far inland because customs aren't stopping you. They're just waving you through, off you toot or pip.
Wow. So the horses that are being slaughtered over there, they're moving them through these different countries without any oversight. I mean, as far as the paperwork is fraudulent, how are they getting horses to areas where they can slaughter them?
I believe, and I don't have this as proof, only hearsay. And again, this was through the shippers when I was exporting horses. Um, but the borders are very lax, going from the UK and then up to Ireland, down through Ireland, over the borders, the soft borders, and then straight away down into Europe. And that's how they're doing it. Racehorses over here have almost zero value. You can't give them away. There's lots of the mountain and moorland ponies, the Dartmoor ponies, New Forest ponies, the Welsh ponies. You know, they just don't really have an awful lot of value. But particularly the racehorses, those horses, I believe, are getting shipped overseas. And they're going for either illegal slaughter or they're going into the blood banks and the vivisection industry. The reason I think they're going into the vivisection industry is because there was an expose not so very long ago where horse meat was found coming back into the UK from France, and it had Sanofi papers with it. The horses were found with tumours. Now, the only way the horses could have these tumours were because, and with Sanofi papers, Sanofi do vaccines. Well, you can Google them yourself. You want to see exactly what they do. That's the whole vivisection industry. It's the only way I can get the horse numbers to stack up is that those race horses aren't, they can't be going all into racing and then get euthanized by vets. It's completely impossible. They have to be going off somewhere. They're certainly not coming into show jumping and eventing and then just general riding horses. Absolutely impossible. So where are they going? They're just disappearing. Well, we're not slaughtering them here in the slaughterhouses. So go figure.
Because the drug cartels are able to move drugs so easily with livestock and horses,
Yeah.
they're just using them for that. And then they
Yeah.
get butchered at the end. So this industry that you're telling me about, can you talk a little bit more about what's happening to the horses within the industry?
Yeah, well, I mean, vivisection is a horrible industry. I think it's heinous. Um, they use horses for a lot of immunology tests, so vaccine research and vaccine production. Um, I know of a site that's not so far away from me here in England. You have to do an awful lot of digging around and ask a little bit covertly in order to find it. It's not easy to find, but I know that there's horses there. I've seen them in the fields. They look like ex-race horses or even young race horses, thoroughbred stamp, and they're just in fields being bled to death.
It's it's sickening when you think of all the things that animals have to go through. And
Yeah,
for me personally, I think someday people will be held accountable for what they did to animals because
yeah.
it's what gets me through. Because I mean, we see such horrible things, and it's like someday they have to be held accountable for what they do. Now, do you, with all these horses that they're moving to slaughter through these countries and basically unregulated because nobody's checking the paperwork, nobody's giving oversight on what's happening, horses aren't supposed to be giving drugs like bute because it's harmful for human consumption. Is that happening to these horses that they're moving since like they're not doing the paperwork right and everything? How are they tracking that?
Here we go. I've had horses. I'm in the UK. I've had horses since I could walk. No vet has ever stamped a passport to say that my horses have had bute. I've had old horses, young horses, competition horses, and everything in between. I used to play polo, you name it, event, show jump. Those horses from time to time would have had bute. It's just the way things are. Um, so you tell me, I could have sent my horse out to slaughter. No one stamped the passport. No one even checks the passport. No one gives a toss about passports. Let's face it. It's ridiculous.
Because over here we hear about, all these amazing passports and all the veterinarian records are within these passports and their entire medical history. So it's just not happening.
No, not at all. It's ridiculous. Yeah, until recently, we didn't even have microchipping, did we? It was literally just a passport with some stupid little diagram if the vet could be bothered to fill it in, and that was it. Well, even now, I know that we've had horses that I used to sell years back yonder. Some horses would unfortunately not be saleable. I don't know, they had wobblers or shivers or something catastrophic. Those horses, it was very easy for them to, and I hate to say it because I was part and parcel of it, just waving my hands thinking I don't want to know about it. But those horses would then have new passports. So it didn't even matter. They could have been beautied up to the hilt and they just get a new passport and that was it. Job done. It's
So,
nonsense.
yeah, that is crazy. So, what is it? What happens to get a new passport for a horse? Like, what do you have to do? What are the steps and procedures? Since you have these horses and they get new passports, what's that? How does that happen?
You just ring the vet up and say, I want a new passport, please.
Wow. There's no questioning.
Not that I know to, unless somebody knows something I don't know. Yeah, so talking about horses and passports and identities and the rest of it and fraud, it's commonplace when you're selling competition horses. I never did this, but I know lots and lots and lots of people that did. Especially to America, where the horses are more expensive, it was very easy to find what looked very nice horses over in Europe that had bad x-rays or not so good x-rays, or there was something that was a little bit iffy about them. And then there were vets out in Europe who would commonplace just put faked x-rays with the horse that had bad x-rays. So they would there was a frozen chest of horse limbs. Obviously the horse was dead, chopped up horse limbs, and they used to x-ray these horse limbs. And then those were the good x-rays, and they would put this frozen chest of good horse x-rays with the horse that had bad x-rays, and then the horse would shush, off it goes to America, and it wouldn't be found out probably for years or even never. And then the comeback is, oh well, sorry, there's been changes. Blame your own USA vet, they must have missed something, or call me, call me, I'm off to the Bahamas.
Wow. Wow. So just a freezer full of horse limbs that they would x-ray and then tie it to that horse's records.
Yes, yeah, and that was commonplace.
Wow.
I never ever did that. I don't condone. Yeah. I think it's horrible. It's why I got out of the industry years ago.
Because
It's
there's just
just,
so much corruption.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, horses getting drugged as well all the time. Oh, yeah, bad industry.
What was it like for you watching our video when we were releasing the presentation about the movement of drugs and horses and people within the United States from the puzzle pieces that we all put together? What happened when you saw that?
Thank God. So because I've been saying that for years, and nobody believed me. Yeah, and it goes on, and it's so much more than that. And when I was selling horses as well, there were people that were from some dubious countries, and they used to mimic, a bit like catfishing, I suppose. They would take the videos that I posted out of my proper horses, with the proper x-rays and the proper everything, and then they would just put it with their horse. So they would sell my Grand Prix horse that is ready for a Nations Cup, at 150,000 euros, 250,000 euros, and they put it with their horse that has the bad x-rays, that's from, I don't know, Poland, Latvia, Hungary, Christ knows blooming where, Uzbekistan, who knows. And then a bay looks like a bay, looks like a bay, looks like a bay. And then until in America they've paid the money for that horse and they think they've bought that horse off the video, they've no idea. That again is just more corruption.
And
But
commonplace. This just
yeah,
happens all the time.
yeah, and again, because there's no tracing that horse with the passport and the chips, you know, as in microchips, not chips, bone
Yeah.
chips. Nobody's any the wiser. But who are you going to sue?
Yeah.
Somebody of no fixed abode from.
Think there's any insurance fraud going on within horses moving back and forth within the United States. I'm going to tell you a little story from horses that we got they came to America, they had passports, and the family, the horse that had the horses couldn't jump high enough for their teenage daughter. And so they collected insurance off of them so they could get more, but the insurance agency said they either had to be euthanized or they didn't want to euthanize them so they could come to a nonprofit. So they donated them to us, but I was always like, that was such a weird situation because I think there was like, and this is in US, like 120 to $180,000 horses that they came over and then they gave them to our organization and were able to collect insurance and I guess get some more horses. But I remember they had their passports and I was like, oh, these are so fancy. Yeah. They were beautiful horses. Like, I mean, we obviously weren't going to be jumping them, like what they were trained for. They just probably went into trail riding homes or something. But I always thought that that was weird.
I've heard the same.
Like all these years, I'm just like, that was the weirdest thing. But
Yeah, no, I've heard about that. There's been a fair few horses that I've sold over the years that all of a sudden had turned neurological. And I
hmm.
thought, well, that's a bit weird because it was jumping a 1 meter 40 track only, what, 4 weeks ago, and you were out competing in that. And then all of a sudden, oh, I don't know, a raccoon, but we don't get raccoons over here or whatever they are over there in your country. I don't know. But all of a sudden, it's got this sort of strange diagnosis yeah, and it's not fit for purpose. They write it off on the insurance and they're straight back again trying to buy another one. And I'm thinking, crikey, is there not something wrong with your feed store? Or have you got a rodent problem? Like, what the hell? Yeah, so very, very fishy. And then following on from that, I'd also heard about, and again, this isn't recently, I'm talking 10 odd years ago, where horses that I'd supplied a handful of horses, and then all of a sudden people were coming back, oh, we need another horse. And I would always say, well, how's XYZ getting on? Oh, well, yeah, oh, it broke its leg in the field. Wow, okay. Got struck by lightning. Wow, okay. Well, that's a bit weird. You might expect one of those every 10 years or something, but it was just happening a little bit more frequently. And then I heard on the grapevine that there were unscrupulous people. I mean, for me, they're absolutely despicable people that were going around and killing the horses. So they were killing them for insurance jobs. So yeah, and that I'm almost certain that that's what happened to those horses.
wow. So they are able to money launder to get the horses to the United States. And then
Yeah.
once they're in the United States, then they will collect insurance on them. And then they're right back asking for more horses. So it's just a big racket.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. Now you mention it, yeah. I we all go into this industry, don't we, thinking that we're going to find loving homes for beautiful horses. That's why I came into this industry. Um, and and I hate to say it, but it's polluted by some people. Not everybody, obviously. There are some really beautiful people that are horse owners. But yeah, there's some scumbags out there, and regrettably, that's why we're having this conversation.
Wow. That's crazy stuff. But yeah, no, the insurance thing was always, I was like, that was the weirdest thing. But these are beautiful horses and they seem fine, but they said that they just couldn't jump over, I think, 4 feet. And I'm like, well, that's pretty hot. Like, they seem like they're able to be fine just being horses. But is there anything you'd like to add on or talk about that maybe we haven't touched on?
Yeah, yeah. And if you're producing vaccines and you're doing vaccine research, which is what they use horses for predominantly, there were, I think, the last numbers I looked at for the Home Office just in the UK, there were 10,700 experiments carried out on horses in 1 year. 10,700. Oh, I can't even fathom that number. Well, what the hell? You know, the Google Randox, the biggest sponsor of the Grand National, like a pharmaceutical company. What the hell? Like the world's gone mental. All in cahoots with racing. I don't know, but my head is like mashed potatoes thinking about all the permutations and combinations and the hidden little vivisection industry and the blood banks. If you're doing vaccine research on horses and they're disappearing out of the whole market, and then you've got money laundering, you've got drug cartels. I know people that would come and shoot me tomorrow. That if I mention their name on camera, I know they would turn up at my door as soon as they caught a boat over here or Eurostar and shoot me. Fact. So
That's
they're
dangerous.
nasty
That's so
people.
dangerous.
Yes, definitely. So why they won't care about sending horses off into a slaughter pipeline if they've got some sort of, I don't know, whatever horses can be injected with these days with vaccine research.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. But I 100% like, I mean, it's the reality of what's happening.
Yeah, it's a huge, horrible problem, and somebody needs to grab it by the throat and yeah, and stop it. I just don't think people have ever questioned
Yeah.
horses
Yeah.
before.
That's what's happening. And basically that's what we're trying to get the information out there is like, look, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And nobody want to talk about it, but it's what's happening. Well, this is really fascinating. I'm so glad that you reached out. And because this horses are around the world, and Horse Plus helps horses in Indonesia and all over the place because the issues aren't just here, they're everywhere, and it just continues to grow. It's like a Pandora box. It just keeps coming and coming and coming. It's like when's it ever going to end? But the horror of what's happening, it just continues, and it's the
Yeah.
corruption is so deep. But Mouse, I really appreciate you reaching out and sharing what's happening um, within your country, and it's so similar to what's happening here. It's really sad what's happening to these beautiful precious animals, but just want to thank you so much for everything that you do, and for reaching out and being a brave warrior to talk about this stuff, because it needs to get out there. While people are being silent, this is happening to animals every day. It's happening to horses every day, and the truth has got to get out there, and the truth will end what's happening if enough people start educating themselves and talking about it, because it's not okay. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome, my love.